Welcome to Tradecast, the podcast where we provide expert insights and share actionable tips and strategies to help you improve your trading skills. Join us as we navigate the complexities of the markets and uncover the secrets to successful trading. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tradecast-Podcast, the only podcast where if you listen to, you are guaranteed to, by listening to 10 episodes, having 10 Rolexes on your wrist by the end of it.
I actually have 12, but that's just because of how elite I am. But yeah, you'll have 10 minimum.
10, minimum of 10. And then if you carry on listening, Lamborghinis are also involved, so...
Yeah, Lamborghini Euros. And if you don't have it, Callum himself will buy you one. So he'll buy you all the Rolexes and a Lamborghini. You just have to provide proof that, you weren't able to obtain it.
So what's been going on, Darwood? How's things going?
Things haven't been too bad, to be honest. Again, I've not been trading this whole month, obviously because of Ramadan. So I've just been focusing on other things. But I'm looking forward to getting back to trading next week. It's odd. It's almost like an itch when I'm not trading, at least. Like I always just want to look at the markets, and like I'm always looking back, and I'm looking at trades which I would have taken this trade that would have made 10R, when realistically I would have probably been down a couple of R for the week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to it. What about you?
Yeah, it's not been too bad. Relatively steady the last 30 days.
Yeah.
A few small losers, a couple of wins. Nothing ridiculous. Nothing like the majority of traders you see on Twitter.
Yeah.
A couple of percent. Not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's decent. It's just these small gains over the year that'll add up.
That's it. Small, consistent profits add up over time. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were just discussing before, and I realised I should have been recording it. We're talking about the US dollar and how countries seem to be sort of moving away from it and shifting from it, especially countries within like the BRIC countries, China, India, Russia, South Africa, Portugal, and then there's some others who are also moving away from it. And I was just saying that I think China is going to overtake the US in terms of like GDP growth. But Darwood had a different opinion on that. I'd be quite interested to hear it again.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of China overtaking US, I see that as a possibility, but I'm coming at it from a stance of what's going to be the next big country. And as you mentioned, obviously, less countries are using the dollar and they're moving away from America. And you can see that with other countries just not listening to America as much, such as like Saudi Arabia pulling away from the Yemen war, which again, America won't be a big fan of. So I personally think that the next big country is going to be in India. And anyone who knows me personally knows that I've been banging on about this for over a year now. And there's quite a few factors to this, because if you think about it, the only other country really in contention is China, because it's massive. But the issue with China is there's a lot of political unease, and they were very strict over COVID. They had like zero tolerance, and they had COVID camps, and the country just can't be as productive in that case. And so a lot of the countries had to take their business elsewhere. Like Turkey picked up quite a bit of the load in terms of the manufacturing sense of it. So all the work that was going into China was pulled away. Was it the Apple factory? I think was shut down, which is massive for China, because it just shows if the world's biggest company is pulling out of it, then it's just signs of a country that's not going to do very well in the coming decade. So my opinion of it was obviously it's going to decline in growth, have negative growth. I don't know about that, but definitely decline, and that's what we saw happen. And the reason I think India is going to pick up a lot of it is just because, firstly, it's a massive, massive country within itself. The population is massive, and it's only really been over the past few years that it's managed to give access, internet access to pretty much everyone. I still don't think everyone has it, but most people now have internet access, and you can see that's massively boosted its productivity. And to relate it to you in sort of a way which isn't related to finance, if you look at YouTube and you look at Indian channels on YouTube, YouTube's been about for years and years, and previously you'd see American YouTubers have massive audiences, massive subscribers. American companies have massive subscribers, massive engagement. But since India started giving more people internet access, the biggest channels on YouTube are Indian channels. It's the growth is massive, and so that's sort of a way you can look at it to see how it's impacted stuff like YouTube, which just proves that as more people get access to the internet, India will naturally pick up more. So that's one of the reasons. More of the population is being more productive. Another reason is Modi, the prime minister. He has a very firm policy. So if he wants to do something, although it's a democracy, if you look at how he does it, he just pushes it through. So although it's a democracy, he just makes the decisions himself and he makes sure that they happen. So he's quite strict on that, and he's been able to tax all of these people in India quite well, which historically has not been the case. So they've got a better tax system in place. So India itself has a better income from people who are working. So now they've got more people working and they've got more money coming in from them people who are working. And then another reason is its international relationships have improved massively, mainly with the UK. I'm sure everyone listening to this will already know and have seen that people from India are more prominent in our political system now. There's more Indian MPs, and in general, if you're a university student, you'll have noticed years ago most of the university students would be Chinese, but obviously now, at least I've noticed a lot more of them are Indian, and that just goes to show that sort of shift because obviously there's been something that's happened where now it's more accessible for Indian students to come over and study. Perhaps there's like programs in India which the UK have funded to get that talent over. I'm not too sure of the details, but that's just what I can see. So the relationship has improved massively. And I think lastly, and one of the most important points is China is already built. It's already a developed country. It's already a very developed economy. And we're moving into a world where net zero and environmentally friendly development is massive. And I don't think China is really on the forefront of that. Like you mentioned, they are, what is it, new coal mine every month that they're building. And because
Some
they are,
crazy statistic like that. I
yeah,
can't remember the exact figures, but they're definitely. Whereas like other countries are trying to go more eco-friendly, they're definitely not doing that, and they've clearly shown that they've got no interest in doing that. So
yeah, yeah. And I think that's going to be massive going forward because China is already developed. So, in order for them, if they did want to become more environmentally friendly, they would have to change a system that is already established, which is quite difficult to do. Whereas India sort of has the upper hand in that sense that it's not as developed as China. So when it is developing, it can develop in a much more sustainable way, in a much more environmentally friendly way, and that attracts investors massively because we're seeing an increase in bonds, which you can only get if you have a certain ESG score, which is to do with your sustainability and green bonds. And if China can prove that it can develop in an environmentally friendly way, it will just get more investments into it, and that's sort of what we've been seeing. But I think within the next decade, that's going to accelerate massively. So that was just my short way of saying why I think India is going to develop a whole lot. I think there are other countries which are also going to benefit massively from this shift to environmentally friendly that everyone's moving towards. But I think India will benefit from it the most.
So do you think that this could be like the end of the US dollar being the more dominant currency within the world? Because personally, I think like at least within the next 10, 20 years, I think could see a huge decline in the dollar. I think see a lot more countries sort of pulling away from that as their primary currency for trading.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I've not looked a whole lot into that. I think that's a question which is well beyond my understanding,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the US has been about for a very long time. Now, I think we have seen early signs of that being the case, of people sort of uh, showing that they don't really believe in the dollar anymore. Like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the BRIC countries are no longer going to use the dollar to trade. Um, but I'm not 100% sure, because if that's the case, then you have to think about what currency would take its place,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to replace a currency like that, you'd have to have a lot of things change around the whole world, and that of itself is going to cost a lot of money. So firstly, you'd have to establish what country would take its place, and I'm not sure what one would.
Yeah,
um
time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it is fair to say that we're seeing early signs of it, and we're definitely seeing early signs of its weakness.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I think now's a good time to introduce this show's guest, which is Tim Chamberlain. Tim is a trader. He's originally from Nottingham in the UK, but has recently, within the last year or two, relocated up to Glasgow to trade for KB Trading, who's the firm that Sam Kavanagh, the first guest of the show, was his firm on the trading desk there. And to be fair, it's pretty exceptional how quickly Tim sort of went from like 0 to 100. Like he's pretty much went from having next to no trading knowledge at all to becoming a profitable full-time trader. He just trades for himself now within just over a year, which is really impressive. Like,
Yeah, I mean, just speaking to him, you can tell, you know, some of the reasons behind his success. He's massively driven, and like you mentioned, the things he's managed to accomplish in such a short period of time, not many are able to do so.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think he's definitely an exceptional trader. He's very driven, and he gave some really, really good advice that I think a lot of people would benefit from, and advice which I don't think is openly available. So it's definitely a good listen, because he essentially went from bricklayer to professional trader in less than a year.
And that's not something that you see very often. I hope you enjoy the show and tune in 2 weeks for the next episode.
Tradecast.
Hello, everyone. Today we've got Tim. Tim is an independent trader. He's been trading for around 2 years now, and he's actually gone from bricklaying to trading in under a year. And I've not heard the story either. So, Tim, do you want to just start off by telling us a bit about yourself and how you got into trading?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me, guys. This is going to be a nice little podcast journey, and I'm pleasure to be start of it as well. So first started obviously bricklaying and construction for my father. I was doing that for 6 years straight out of school. I studied bricklaying in college, only did 1 year, and then went straight into work in the family business and kind of worked my way through for 6 years. And then obviously COVID came around, and you know what happened during COVID. Everyone became a trader.
Literally,
Yeah, literally everybody. And so me and my dad was kind of speaking to each other, and it was actually him that first got me into the kind of the financial scene, and it was crypto. And my dad was actually raging about crypto when Bitcoin, I think, was around, I think it was about 7,000 before the big pump anyway. And yeah, so then naturally being who I am, I wanted to one up him and find something better. And so I started looking into Forex. And one of my mates back in Nottinghamshire, he was part of the whole like the Forex guru kind of stuff, that scene. And he originally got me into Forex trading. So I started looking into it more. Obviously just blindly, everyone's first like at least first 6 months into the journey just thinks of the tits and just blindly going into it, or as some people say, balls deep. So yeah, it was kind of one of those. And then I came across, I was done with all the like the absolute BS. in the trading scene, like one of these gurus that was making all this money, and I was actually like, hang on a second, I want to learn how to do this. I don't want to just do this. Do you know what I mean? Because I like to see behind the scenes of the industry and learn actually how to do it myself. But obviously, when you've got someone selling your signals and you start being asked how to learn how to trade, and they don't have a jack's arse clue how to trade either, then you kind of just get laughed at. So it was kind of a bit of a journey for me at the start, and lost a fair bit of money through dodgy signals. So that brings me on to where I came across KB and Sam. And it was the start of, not the start of the pandemic, sorry, maybe 6 months in. So I came across Sam on YouTube. And what I really liked was it was kind of like a no-nonsense. He was putting up on YouTube, like, these are my losses and these are my wins. Like, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And that was like totally new in the industry. I'd not seen that before. So that really sparked my interest with KB. So then I think it was, I forgot what month it was now, but I think it was a Black Friday deal for one of Sam's courses. And I didn't have enough money in my bank to pay for it. So it was actually my mum that paid for it. And then I went and did the course. And then, funnily enough, this was kind of the same time when Sam was setting up his prop firm, and he was sending out applications for people to fill in, for traders to fill in. And I was like, I really want to do this because construction just isn't for me. I realised that it just wasn't for me. I didn't have a love for it, and I really was wanting something that I could just absolutely love and be obsessed over in terms of work. I think it's really valuable to have in life. So I applied for a position, and I remember on the application form, it said about experience, and the lowest experience was like 6 months. And so I just ticked that. I think I started the course for I've been doing the course for like a couple of weeks. So it was quite funny. And then Sam dropped me a message and asked if I would be willing to come up for an interview and if I'm serious and would make the move. I said yes to both. I then went up for an interview. He sat me down, and obviously in the last podcast you'd probably hear about the tough questions he asked.
Yeah, we did.
Well, my tough question was, tell me a joke. So he turned around. There was Sam, Grant, and then Sam's wife there, Neve. And Sam turned around and said, tell me a joke. And it's a really bad joke. So what's blue and white and falls out of the tree and could kill you?
No idea.
No clue.
A fridge freezer wearing a denim jacket.
Such a dad joke.
Oh, it's worse. It's a granddad joke, that one. That's like new levels of bad jokes. So obviously, Sam being Sam, everyone just sat there being straight-faced, and I just got totally embarrassed. But it's funny to look back on something like that. I obviously came clean about my experience in trading as well, and just turned around and said to him, look, I really want to give this a go. So I ended up walking out of the interview with a position on the trading floor.
I was going to say, just on that point, it's quite a bold move just to kind of like move your whole life pretty much from Nottingham up to Scotland. What was that like in the early stages, especially financially as well?
So yeah, it was the first time I'd ever moved out. So I was living with my mum still before I'd moved up, and I didn't have much money to my name at all. So as I was going home, Sam said, look, I want you back up here in a month's time. So I literally worked all hours around the clock in that last month, doing private work and doing my normal 9-to-5 job just to raise as much money as I could. On top of that, as well as like looking for properties up here. So it was like the scariest thing, not knowing anyone up here, first time moving out. I imagine this is what university is like in terms of moving away from the family and not knowing anyone. But luckily I came across my landlady. She's absolutely wonderful. I got an absolute awesome price because it was COVID for my contract, which I'm still here now. So yeah, it was a big move for me. It was very hard because at the start on the floor, obviously you're going in there and everyone knows how to trade. Everyone's got that experience, and you just sat there not really knowing where to start. That was the toughest thing for me. It took a lot of mental resilience to tell myself that I can do this, even though I didn't have a clue how to do it.
So I'm guessing for that first few months when you were there, you weren't making any money.
Not at all, no.
How was that kind of like psychologically?
It was really tough because I'd only factored in like maybe a couple of months of worth of savings. That's how much capital I had at the time. So I really dedicated a lot of time for the first couple of months to just trading constantly. Like I just wanted to be like a sponge, just constantly listening to what everyone was saying, just so I could soak everything up. And then when funds started to run out, that's when I started working and finding work up here. Now, this is where like the biggest battle came, because there was times where I was doing night shifts and then coming into the firm in the morning and doing a full shift at the desk, and it was a long graft, yeah. But I was kind of like jumping between jobs, kind of finding which one suits around KB to start off with.
That sounds like you had a lot going on during that period, and like Callum said, that's a very big decision to make.
Yeah.
What would you say was the point where it clicked, where you were like, right, I need to move? Because a lot of people are going to be in the position where they think trading is what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what a lot of people do is they tend to just do it in their house. What made you actually think, right, I'm going to take that jump and I'm going to move out with everything going on, like you mentioned?
I have quite a big like financial appetite, and obviously, I always think the byproduct of one of the byproducts of success is money. So I've kind of always had that mindset. So I just wanted to be successful, and the best paying successful job in probably I'd say in the world is trading, or something definitely in the financial sector. So I really wanted to just hone in everything. And also, I've kind of gone through life beforehand, like always saying, I'm going to do this, or I really want to do this, and then just felt so paralyzed. And I listened to what my dad used to say to me, and like how he could have done this and he could have done that. And I just thought to myself, look, I don't want to be at my dad's age and saying that to my son or daughter. I want to be saying, look, I did this and I did that. And so that's really what gave me the initial push out of the door to make the move up here.
Just on that point you mentioned about your dad, and I know you mentioned earlier that your mum actually helped you funded you with the money for your first course.
Yeah.
How did your family sort of like deal with you just deciding to go all into trading?
I'm very, very, very lucky to have such a supportive family. They've had my back 100% of the way. I mean, I've been on phone calls, like really down in the dumps, and like obviously the psychological part of trading and doubting yourself whether you can actually make this work. I've had that over these 2 years, and every single time my family's been like, look, you need to get up, you need to bounce back, and you need to go and do this. Not at one point they've like, oh, maybe you should throw in the towel and come back home. They've always been really, really supportive. Always had my back, and I'm just super grateful and super lucky to have, because I know a lot of family members with a lot of traders I know, they just think trading's a myth. And even if my family thinks that, they're still supporting me because they see how much love I have for this.
That's really interesting, to be honest. So, with all the support that your family were giving you and all the commitment you'd made, obviously there was a lot of pressure to succeed in trading. And during that course, did you ever have any self-doubt? And how did you deal with it, if you did have any?
Yeah, so lots and lots of self-doubt, an unbelievable amount of pressure as well. This industry tests you, pulls you and stretches you like nothing ever. You really have to build up a big mental resilience. And when I say that, like, no one can just learn from what I say to them. It's almost like they have to build that themselves. It's like putting on pieces of armor bit by bit. But the only reason you're putting that armor on is because you've had an injury there. So there's a lot of pressure in trading. At the starting stages, what was actually, it sounds quite cliche, but I used to listen to, you know, those motivational speeches.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one of those ones. And I remember like driving back and forth from the job, whatever job I was working, and I just had that in my car, and I was listening to that and just like screaming at myself in my car, to be honest, saying that I can do this and I will do this. Obviously now I'm at such a higher mental state in terms of I've got better ways to deal with it, and I know myself how I feel and how to react to my thoughts in trading and stuff like that. So I don't listen to that anymore, by the way. So, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with it to get your feet off the ground.
Gets you going, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does get you going completely.
So with working on like an actual trading floor with other traders, how much would you say that's benefited you in comparison to say somebody who's just going at it alone in their bedroom?
Oh, honestly, it's been the absolute making of me. I wouldn't be where I am today without all the lads that are at KB. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, you probably know we had trade clubbing for KB, which is where like all types of experienced traders come in, trade on the floor, and learn bits and bobs here. Well, I was running that, and I'd be having conversations with like some guys that have been training for like 5 to 10 years, and they asked me how long I've been training for, and I've been like, not even 2 years yet. And they're like, what? You're lying to me. And I think that stems from having that environment with traders, because when you've got that environment of traders who are developing themselves and developing their own strategies, you're soaking in absolutely everything from everybody, and it really excels you. And like, if there's a group of, let's say, 6 or 7 of you, and one person's making a mistake, the rest of them is going to learn from that mistake. So I think Mr. Beast talks about it, and it's like, instead of just learning everything by yourself and learning the mistakes by yourself, having that community to learn from other people's mistakes really does excel you. And my knowledge and my experience kind of just went exponential being on a floor and having other traders, like-minded traders around me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good because that's almost sort of the polar opposite of how I went about trading, because I
Mm-hmm.
was the complete opposite in the sense that I would just be alone in my room. Now, obviously, I was a part of the community, and the community helped me massively.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it was just me in my room. So I think that's what's so great about trading is you can be, no matter what position you're in, there's always a way you can become successful in trading. Whereas I feel in other careers that's not the case. In other careers, there's one traditional route normally. Whereas, just as you've said there, you thrived in that sort of environment of having experienced traders around you, whereas some other people might get intimidated and not be able to learn anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. And sometimes you saw that. I mean, some traders came and went because the environment was, I don't know, maybe a bit too hot for them. Maybe they was intimidated, whatever the reason, but it wasn't for them. Now, I remember, you probably know Grant, and anybody
yeah,
that follows KB will know Grant as well. I remember Grant taking me aside when I first joined KB, and he like came up to me, pointing his finger, and he said, "Listen," it was like, "if you do not want to be here, if you have any like a little thought of not wanting to be here, then you need to leave." It was like, because this will test you, like absolutely test you. He was like, "You've got to want to do this. If you're broke, if you're not making any money in 2 years, which you probably won't be, you need to just leave now and walk away." And I remember listening to say, and it was like gold coming out of his mouth. I was like, just because I'm a very stubborn person, so I was like, right, I just need to get this and take it on board. And that really like motivated me and pushed me, because I was like, it was almost like I wanted to prove Grant wrong,
mm,
even though he probably believed in me anyway. But yeah,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with a bit of friendly competition in that sort of sense.
100%, 100%. And Grant was always the realist that like grounds people, which was really good. It was like at the starting stages when I first started back testing and stuff. Obviously, you're just going through. You think you've made a strategy in your head, and you're going through it on TradingView, and you're like, oh yeah, would have got in there, would have got in there. Oh yeah, that's like 20R, and then you're like, you've done like 10 trades and you're up to 100R, and then you're like showing it to people like, I've just found the best strategy in the world. And instead of people like shying away and being, oh yeah, well done mate, like it was very much the environment of like, that is just not realistic. delete it all and do it again. And there was many times where I had all my back testing and it was deleted and done again.
No.
Many times. Like, not even save the data because it's just nonsense. It was delete it all, do it again. So it was following very rigid rules. And if there was too many inconsistencies in the spreadsheet, delete, do it again. And so a lot of months went into doing that, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's exactly what you need. Now, when Grant came to you and obviously said that, what is it about trading which you really like? Because earlier you mentioned how you became obsessed with trading, you knew it was right for you and you wanted to do it. And you went through all of what you went through because you wanted to trade. But what is it about trading where you're like, right, this is what I want to do?
The main reason is obviously, and again, something cliche is I want to be able to provide for my whole family. I want to be at that level where I can retire my whole family if I wanted to. I've really absolutely massive goals in trading, massive plans for a future in the finance industry, and I like I said, I'm too stubborn to think to myself, oh, that might not be realistic. Like, something I always think of is like, if your goal's 10 times bigger than someone's biggest goal and you fall short by like half, you're still way above competition. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you aim for the stars, and if you hit the moon, you hit the moon.
Yeah, exactly. And if someone's like, oh, I'll reach the sky, and if they fall short, they're just on top of Mount Everest, aren't they? So, yeah, I've got absolutely massive goals, and I want to be able to provide and for everyone around me. That is the main reason. That is my why. And yeah, also like anyone that says that they're not in trading for money is absolutely lying. Trading, like, no one does trading for just free. Do you know what I mean? If someone said to you, "I've seen the future," and you're going to trade for the rest of your life and not make a penny ever, like, you're not going to do it. So obviously the money's something else as well, and I feel like trading can just get me there. Another reason is I feel like, especially when you create your own strategy from scratch, from start to finish, it's like creating your own language, and it's just something that's absolutely beautiful to do. And when you're sitting there and you're showing some of your strategy, and they're like, someone who doesn't understand trading, and they're just looking at you like, how do you know that? And the best way I can describe it is like, it's like creating your own language that you can speak to that language with only certain people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful about that. And then also you got to love those take profits as well, like creating something and spending absolute months on it and getting that long-term gratification from it finally, like seeing it start working. It's just, oh, it's beautiful.
I
Absolutely
know, mate.
beautiful.
When you get up out of bed, open your phone, open MT4, and you just see that trade you were in overnight is closed and it's profit.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's one of the best feelings I've ever felt.
yeah, yeah.
One thing you mentioned was how one of the reasons you trade is for money. And now to
Mhm.
almost interrogate you there,
Yeah.
um, don't you think if you wanted to make money, you could do so in many other ways which are way more effective? And the reason I say this, because once I was speaking to someone who's very wealthy, and I was speaking to them about trading and the potential, and they were actually telling me how the potential for trading income is actually quite low, than if you were to actually do something else. For example, he does import export of machinery, and he's
Mhm.
got a massive business of that, and he was comparing that to trading, and he was telling me if you spent a few years setting something like that up, you have something physical there which has physical value, and you don't have to work every day to sort of make your money, get your money. You sort of just do a few business deals a month, and then obviously everything else takes care of itself. Whereas he compared it to trading, and he was like, you have to be in every day, and you don't have a guarantee of making money. And if it doesn't work out, you've got nothing to sell almost,
Mhm.
to sort of get any money out of it. And that sort of stuck with me a lot. What's sort of your opinions of that?
Yeah, no, I do agree with him, but also you've got to look at like statistics, like how many people are in import export of machinery, versus how many people are doing trading. So obviously the fail rate of trading and like the kind of wages gets averaged down, because there's some people that take, I don't know, if you're trading for prop firms and they've got like a small account, yeah, you're not going to be making loads. Like, how many people are actually in that top percentage that are making a decent amount of living? And onto the second point of doing the work and being in front of the screens, I literally spend 10 minutes in the morning putting my orders in, and that's me for the rest of the day. And then at night time, I just flick over my orders to see if I need to remove any. And then that is literally it. I put in all the legwork in the past 2 years to create a strategy to do so. So it just allows me to have absolute full flexibility throughout the day. And it sounds so bad, like, oh yeah, quit your 9 to 5 job and only work 20 minutes a day. It's not like that, but it's literally put orders in the morning and then leave them, because I'm a no management strategy, and I only have a certain criteria of where I remove the order from the market. So if you look at it in an hourly wage, I'm probably on a lot more than someone who's like doing import export of machinery. But if you look at it in a guaranteed money wage, like, he's probably taking the edge there. But at the same time, you're not also guaranteed to get those contracts in to sell that kind of machinery. You're not also guaranteed to understand everything about it. You're not also guaranteed that you're going to have, I don't know, there might be a shortage of metal or something like that. So there's lots of external factors with something like that. But trading, there's money to be made everywhere. It's very little external factors. A lot of it's, I'd say 80% is down to the trader, and 20% is like maybe fundamental macroeconomics kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like the way you summed it all up there, in the sense that in trading, it's pretty much you're in control of everything.
Yeah.
Whereas in the others, you're not always in control. Now, you mentioned your strategy there. Sort
Mhm.
of, do you want to just briefly go over sort of what markets you trade and how you approach them, essentially?
Yeah, so I trade the G8, which is a combination of all the currencies. So I trade 31 assets, and in there's 3 commodities, which is gold, silver, and oil. And I came across my strategy whilst I was doing some engulfing candle stats, and it was all about the range of a candle, of the engulfing candles. So I started to look into it a bit more, and I found my strategy. I was very lucky in the sense of finding something quite easy, but I did lots and lots of testing on it. So essentially, it's a mean reversion strategy of 1 times the range of a daily engulfing. So I enter there, and then I put my stop loss, thrust through structure, or an hourly engulfing, and I'm targeting the high or low of the engulfing, and that is pretty much it. And then if price doesn't fill me before it takes out the extreme, then I remove my order. So it's something very extremely simple. And that's another thing, like, I want to touch on is, like, people think they have to have like all this RSI and like EMAs and all this kind of stuff, and it's absolute nonsense. Like, I literally tell people my strategy and they're just like, surely not, it can't be that easy. And I'm like, yeah, it is. The hardest part is putting in the legwork and thinking about the strategy, thinking about what to do and knowing how to test it, and putting it under different types of market conditions, like tweaking the entries, seeing if it still works, and then tweaking the stop losses, seeing if it still works. It's just so you have a really broad, right, robust strategy, and it's not got loads of different indicators on, because you imagine adding indicators to a strategy, it's like a house of cards. One goes wrong, all of a sudden that indicator might be wrong, that one might be wrong, that one might be wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just on that point there, because obviously I know that you've put in a lot of legwork over the last couple of years developing the strategy that you trade now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still backtest regularly, or do you still try and develop new strategies, or are you kind of just like sticking with the one that you've got and you know that it works?
No, so it's never a guarantee that it's going to continue to work. Now you're looking at edge decay probably every 1.5 years now. I heard from somebody the other day on a strategy. So you need to be constantly creating new strategies and having at least like 3 strategies on the go, just so you're very diverse in the market, because if one strategy is not performing very well, the other one might be, and that's what might save you from maybe losing an account or going into like severe drawdown. So 100% you need more than one strategy. So currently I'm developing another strategy, and every quarter I backtest that quarter with my current strategy just to make sure everything's still in line. Now I say every quarter is because a month-to-month basis, number one, there's not that many trades, and number two, you can kind of remember what happened that month. So it feels like it's bias. So if you do every quarter, hopefully by the end of the quarter you won't remember what kind of happened in January or whatever the start of the quarter was.
Yeah, and just to clarify, sorry, the edge decay and the strategies you develop and trade, they are mechanical in the sense that you get an order in, you wait for it to either hit your profit or your stop.
Yeah, it's simple as that. I'm not looking at managing the trades and stuff like that. So it's just either hits my stop loss or hits my take profit. So I also think that's good for being able to mentally deal with loss, because when I passed my first FTMO, I went into a 10-hour drawdown off the bat, and you start to think to yourself, hang on a second, like, have I just been absolutely robbed here? Like, is now my strategy just doesn't work? But you kind of look at different factors of your strategy, and you've got to trust the data that you have. And this is why it's crucial to have 100% honest data. Like, if you're bullshitting yourself whilst you're doing your back testing and developing of your strategy, you're literally throwing money down the drain in the future. You're only doing yourself damage. But I would rather test something for 3 months, and if it does not work, be 100% okay with that, and just leave it. Maybe come back to it at another stage, but just leave it and then test something else. Because trying to make something work and add bits here and add bits there to make it work, and allow that and don't allow that, it's you just damaging yourself for the future.
With your, I asked Sam a very similar question. With your strategy being so mechanical, has like totally automating the strategy not been something that you've ever considered? Because yours seems kind of like more automated than even what his is, and his is quite automated.
Yeah, 100%. At the moment, it costs a lot to get it automated, which I don't simply have the funds at the moment. But that is something in the future I would like to. There's a trader I know who's in contact with some guy that runs a hedge fund, and he literally just has this algorithm that just tests strategies. Like, he's coded this algorithm that tests strategies, and he has like 50 strategies running at one go for this hedge fund, and it's constantly just pumping out new strategies. So it's definitely the way of the future, having everything automated. But this guy, by the way, he pumps out strategies for like the big hedge funds. So like the big whales, he's pumping out strategies for them, and they're just rolling them off. So yeah, it's definitely something I want to be doing in the future, because it's also, even though my strategy is very hands-free, it'd also be nice to kind of just dedicate more time. So like, let's say if I have 3 strategies, instead of it taking maybe an hour in the morning to put all my orders in or do whatever, it might only take 15 minutes if I've got a couple of them automated, because they're just running themselves.
Valuable asset at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's literally, I'd only be doing it for a time thing. Only be doing it for a time thing. Because when you've got, the more diverse you are, the more strategies you have. So essentially hedging yourself constantly. And like, if you've got that many strategies, there's no way you can keep up with the maintenance of that. And imagine having, like, with my strategy, sometimes at the moment I've got like 5 orders in Swiss yen, and that's just by luck I've got 5 orders in Swiss yen, and it's just literally just lines on the screen with all my stop losses, my entries, and take profits. Now imagine if you had like 4, 5, 6 strategies, and it would just be an absolute shit show. You won't be able to know your arse from your tit.
We spoke a lot about sort of how you got into trading and why you like it. I guess obviously you've made a massive career change. What would you say is one or a few of the things about trading which you don't like at all?
You got me thinking now.
Nothing. I love it all.
Probably the aspect of, for the last 2 years, my mum's not been able to sleep very well. It's only been the past couple of weeks, she's started to get good sleep now, because she kind of knows it's got a high percent of chance of like being okay.
Oh,
So yeah, it's probably that, and having people worry about me. I really don't like that.
would that not be the case if you were to go down sort of any business route because of the risk involved?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But also, when you tell your family, "Oh, I'm going to be a financial trader," 9 times out of 10, they don't know any financial traders. If you say to your family, "I'm going to own a construction company," or "I'm going to be an entrepreneur," they probably know a couple of entrepreneurs. So it's very credible for them to kind of think in that sense, because they can see someone else has done it. So they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can see you do it." But when I speak to my mum about trading, her brain just shuts down instantly. Not literally, by the way, but like she shuts off from the conversation, because
Yeah.
I don't know, she just doesn't comprehend it.
I think that's what it boils down to, isn't it? Like people's lack of understanding of it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all it is, really, at the end of the day.
yeah. So another thing that I probably dislike is there's a point where I met my current girlfriend whilst I was like probably going through one of the hardest stages in my trading career, and it put quite a bit of strain on the relationship. But she's absolutely solid, so it wasn't too bad. But that's also another thing that might happen with somebody that's trading. It puts lots of strain, because, as you can imagine, like monetary wise, when you're not funded and you're just literally living like paycheck by paycheck, you struggle to do anything else outside of that. And now you add in a girlfriend as well, who was also unemployed. It just becomes very difficult to do things. But again, if you get to the other side of it, it just absolutely it makes it so beautiful, because you're just indestructible by then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember in the height of lockdown, I was literally the same as you, like obsessed, and I wouldn't leave my room ever, for days and days, and like it puts a massive strain on your family, which you don't realize at the time because they start getting really worried for you and sort of what you're doing, and that's only something you realize after. Um, so yeah, I can see why that would be an issue in trading. I think another issue quite a few people have. This is one I had for a while, was just in trading, you're sort of just providing liquidity, in the sense that you're just buying or selling. You have no real impact on anything in the world, whereas probably with another career, or even another business, you sort of have some sort of impact, in the world. And some people just want to leave, an impact, or want to do something meaningful, and that's something I struggled with as well. But I eventually realized, although you can't impact directly from trading, it's what you get out of trading and what you can do with that, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how I sort of thought that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, like, there's no, obviously, yeah, there's no direct impact really when trading, but it also makes it like, when I earn money trading, when I have a big payout in trading, what can I do with that money that can be the thing that changes? Because obviously, if you're, I don't know, a lawyer, for example, you're helping people beat cases, and you might feel good about that. You could be helping someone who's innocent beat a case, and they walk away free. Now, with trading, you can essentially work really, really hard, potentially make it, and after you've beat all the odds, because everything in this game is against you from day one, there's nothing that wants to go in your favor. Absolutely nothing. Everything is against you. And then when you get that little crumb of the cake and put it in your pocket, you get to choose what that's divided up into. So instead of like maybe just helping people beat cases that they're innocent, you can choose, right, I want to put my money into that. I want to do my money with that and that and that. So you could have maybe multiple things that you could kind of contribute towards society with.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
I always also look at it like, trading isn't the end goal. Trading is just a vehicle to get you to that end goal. So trading is something like, I want to be putting my eggs in loads of different baskets when I've got like enough funds. So I want to be kind of creeping into different sectors and different industries. And trading is definitely not like the be all and end all. It's just a vehicle to get me to my end goal. And That's simply all it is. It's just that vehicle,
Yeah,
and I love driving it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I think you've summed it perfectly there as well, in the sense that you treat trading as a business. And if
Yeah,
you were involved in any other business, you'd be naive to think that that business would give you money through your whole life. And so, what you find with a lot of successful businessmen is they sort of have multiple streams and they put their eggs into separate baskets, like you said. And you have to treat trading the exact same. You have to treat it as a business, and that's how I find is one of the key things to become successful in it.
100%. Even looking at like commission and like your swap charges, I see that as like maybe getting a bus to work or like petrol in my car, that kind of thing. Like down to every single last little bit, like you treat it like a business. And once you start taking it seriously, like once you start looking at it like a business and taking it seriously, that's when you'll find a lot of growth. In terms of the whole doing it part time, you cannot trade part time unless you've put in the groundwork first. So if you're trying to learn how to trade, that's fine. You can learn how to trade and still work a 9 to 5 job. You can't be full time trading and working a 9 to 5 job. It's not right, because like you said, you've got to have that business mindset in trading. You've got to treat it like a trading business. So there'll be a point in your career where you've got to take that leap and you've got to go, right, I'm at that stage where I believe I can like make that jump into trading. So I'll leave my job and put all my time and effort into trading.
I mean, it's like you've got to preserve your mental capital as well. You've got to have some sort of like space up there, don't you? Like you kind of just, I mean, if you're working a 9 to 5 job and trying to trade full time at the same time, you pretty much you'd have nothing left in the tank.
I mean, you get used to it, trust me.
Yeah,
If you want it enough, you'll do it.
yeah, yeah. I think that's the case with anything really, and you've got to really think of it from a level playing field, because thankfully we're all quite young, so we can make that leap. But imagine you come across trading when you're already established in your career and you've got a family and you've got sort of real commitments that you've got to provide for. I could imagine it'd be pretty much impossible for you to just quit from the day, and you'd have to have a sort of slow transition. And like you mentioned earlier, you would need to just have no mental capacity left at the end of the day. After working, you'd have to spend your time trading, and then
Yeah.
that's it. And then you slowly transition from there.
Yeah, 100%. Like anyone that's listening to this who is roughly around in the 20s, definitely just give it all you've got. I've got a nice little saying that I always think about, and it's like, I don't want to be on my deathbed wishing what I could have done or who I could have been. I want to be on my deathbed being proud of what I've made and the impact that I've left. So, yeah, and like I said, I'm super stubborn and I've got really, really, really big goals. So I think the combination of them it goes hand in hand, really.
Yeah. So I've noticed since, because a lot of the members of KB are now working remotely, but I've seen on Instagram that you've got your own office again. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm not actually in the office anymore, but there was a time where I was in our own office. Financially, it just became a bit daunting, so decided to leave the office, and now I'm full-time remote.
So what would you say, if you could walk us through like your daily routine, what would that sort of look like?
I'm not lying when I say any of this, by the way. So I'm up at 4 and I go for a run. So I run at 5. So I'm up at 4, go for a run at 5, and normally I'm running for about an hour. So I'm back for 6. Straight onto the monitors. I don't wake up and look at any trades or anything like that. I'm just like focused for running. I'm back for 6. That's the time when I look at the markets. I put my orders in or take my orders out, and then once I've done that, I might go and get some breakfast, come back, chill out for a little bit, and then get stuck into back testing. I'm constantly creating presentations as well, because I've got a couple of investors, so I'm making presentations for them, and then just chilling really. Around 2-3 o'clock, I'll head over to the gym, get in a good session, and then come home, grab some dinner, and that's me. Lights out by 8 o'clock, and then up again at 4. It's quite a boring, quite a boring daily routine, but I love it. Absolutely love it.
I'd say that's quite a military routine.
Yeah, I believe like my mental resilience has been absolutely exponential since I've been getting up at 4. So it was actually a guy that I met at KB called Dariush, and me and him like really clicked in KB, and we started going to the gym together. I wasn't going to the gym at the time, and he was going to the gym at 4:00, and he said, "Come to the gym for 2 weeks at 4 a.m. and I bet you'll love it." And again, being stubborn, I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll do it." Did it for 2 weeks, and now I'm just absolutely obsessed with getting up at 4. And it's that little mental battle. I don't know if you guys watch Goggins at all.
Yeah, sometimes I see his reels pop up on my Instagram quite a bit.
Yeah. So even though a lot of that stuff's really funny, it does work 100%. Getting up in the morning, and your little inner bitch is telling you, go back to bed, and go to sleep, like make up some excuse. You win that battle in the morning, so then you're up, you're out the door. The hardest part is getting out the door, and then you go for another battle running. I don't know if you guys run at all, but it's definitely like 80% mental, 20% body. You're going through that run, and you might be, depending on your experience level, you might be like 5k in, and all your legs are hurting, and then your brain's telling you to stop. That's your little inner bitch talking to you. So then you've got to defeat it. You've got to push through it, breathe through it, and then 5 minutes later, your legs aren't hurting at all. So it's like those little battles really set you up for the rest of the day, because no matter how shit the rest of the day is, you've already got up super early. You've already come back when like people are still asleep, and you've already gone for like a massive run. Like no one likes to run. I hate running. I don't like it, but I just do it because it's like it's so good. Don't get me wrong. There's some mornings where it's like, oh, this is really nice. Like I've really enjoyed this, but majority of the time, definitely more so than not, I don't want to go for a run. But it's really building that, putting that armor on me, putting that little bits of armor, adding that extra little bits, and then like now trading, like with my strategy, because it's a no management. This is quite frequently I'll go into a drawdown. Now this drawdown might last a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and it range from like 6R to like 10R. Now going through that, it's just it absolutely flies by now, and I can say now I've got 100% detachment from the numbers on the screen. I'll still watch them because I think it's fun to see my P&L range so much with a no management strategy, but you've just really got to detach yourself from those numbers. And I think having that mental resilience building up in your head, really just lets that fly by.
It's a good answer. So I think that's probably a good point to wrap up the podcast there. So I'd just like to say thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Tim. It's been really interesting speaking to you.
Yeah, thanks. We should catch up some more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely have you back on in the future if you'd be up for it.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to talk about the goals I've achieved by then.
Yeah, definitely get you on in a year or two's time and then see where you're at then.
Yeah, man.
So if people want to find you on social media, what's your handles?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Tim SR Chamberlain. That's CHAMBERLAIN. Maybe an easier way is just going onto the KB Instagram and finding me through there.
Yeah, I think our Instagram follows you as well, so you'll be on our post anyway, tagged.
Awesome. Yeah. So on my Instagram, quite frequently I'll put up like a couple of trades I'm in, and you can follow my journey. I've got my MyFX book there. You can just pop on and have a look. Like full transparency, full just like that's what I believe in trading, especially through social media. It's just full transparency, and then there's no bullshit, is there? So yeah.
Yeah, that's been great, Tim. Once again, thank you very much. And that has been Tim from bricklayer to trader.
Thank you very much.